You are now listening to the Business Chatter Podcast.
All right, welcome back to the Business Chatter Podcast. I'm Anthony.
I'm Chris, and we're happy that you're here with us today. We're going to be talking about entrepreneurship, startups to enterprise, team building, project management, product management, value creation, and everything in between.
I'm getting hot flashes. Today we're going to start with we're going to talk about everything is sales, the EQ of business, selling yourself, selling your product, selling your business, selling other people on your idea. Wow, man, my face is just flushed.
I mean, you're hot because everything is sales.
I don't think that's why I'm hot.
I mean,
I might be dehydrated.
It's an exciting topic. If you're dehydrated, have some water.
Mm-mm.
You're not going to drink for the whole podcast?
Mm-hmm.
All right, I'll drink for both of us throughout this whole podcast.
Can't sell me on water.
I mean, I'd beg to differ, but we'll save that for another conversation. How about this? If you're listening, why don't you sell us on water? Send us an email, host@businesschatterpod.com, or find us on Instagram, businesschatterpod, and we'll respond. You're supposed to say we'll respond.
Yeah, we'll respond.
Man, you must be really hot right now.
So you know what it is? I think it's a few things. I went for a run this morning. I live on the beach. Very, very fancy Jersey Shore winter. Not as fancy as you think. But it's windy and cold, and my face is just like has cold burn on it from like the wind. And now that I'm inside, the rawness feels hot.
That makes sense.
Yeah, I don't know if it does, but
I mean, I get it because I've been in a similar situation. I don't run. Let's clarify that. That is not my thing. Good on you for doing that. But I've been in those situations before. So you know what NFL players do?
No.
They use Tiger Balm and Vaseline.
Oh, yeah,
on really cold, like linebackers, when they don't wear sleeves. So maybe that's what you should put on your face next time you go for a run.
I would break out so bad.
Well,
I think like layering my face in Vaseline would not be the move for sensitive skin.
I mean, Vaseline, it's pretty neutral, no? If you're gonna layer your face in anything, Vaseline is probably one of the better things, right?
Are you selling me?
I mean, hey, Vaseline, if you want to sponsor the podcast, you can reach us at host@businesschatterpodcast.com.
Is Vaseline's own brand? By the way, did you know I found out that Pepsi owns Quaker?
That makes sense.
Yeah,
that would make sense. There's there's really what? 20 there's 20 companies that they own.
So Gatorade.
Yeah.
Was obviously started at University of Florida, right?
Yep.
They sold to some other brand, smaller brand, but like still pretty mid-market, not too small. Bought by Quaker, and then Pepsi bought Quaker, and that's how Pepsi ended up owning Gatorade.
That's interesting.
Not through a direct acquisition of Gatorade.
Was Quaker trying to, were they trying to get into that side of it? Were they trying to get into sport nutrition? Leverage their products into understanding that world, or you think it was just a timely acquisition?
I would say it's a timely acquisition. It was still early in the sports drink era.
That's true. Gatorade was
they had almost all of the market share when it came to sports drink.
Totally.
And as that market share divulged, obviously their growth was going to stagnate at some point, so they probably wanted to get in early.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Buy some Gatorade.
Well, it's crazy. I mean, growing up, it was Gatorade or Powerade. That was the eternal, struggle. And now Body Armor's really.
You got Liquid IV. What is it? Element T.
Element. Mantra Labs. They make a good hydration powder.
There's
Shout out Mantra Labs.
They sell it at all the convenience stores now. It's I don't know. They have a watermelon flavor. It's pretty good. Gatorade even has their own version to compete with the liquid IVs and stuff, because it's not Gatorade now is more of more of a junk drink than a sports drink. So now they've had the Gatorade.
Yeah, it's
I forget what it is.
It's Hydrate maybe, or
something.
It's watermelon juice based, or it's very interesting.
Arizona Iced Tea has their own version of it. I see now.
99 cents in a can?
No, it's $4 in a smaller bottle.
I don't know. You got to do some work to sell me on that.
They put some magnesium in it.
Well,
little potassium.
All good things in
Um,
moderation.
what else? There's another big one I feel like I'm forgetting. I
Uh,
don't.
the healthy sport drinks. I mean, even smart water, right?
Hmm.
That's the electrolytes. I mean,
Oh,
I
and
definitely get
Gatorade
it.
has another one. They have Gator Light, or it's like Gatorade electrolyte drink. So on top, they have
Oh, okay.
two of them. One's in like a square bottle, and the other one's in like a normal shaped Gatorade bottle, but it's like the different packaging. That's the coconut or watermelon juice base.
I heard that Gatorade has a patch that you can buy, and it analyzes your sweat profile. Maybe it's aligned with that drink you were talking about to let you know how many electrolytes you're using when you're undergoing an athletic endeavor, and you can make sure that you're properly hydrating.
That's pretty interesting.
That's
Oh,
that's pretty cool.
Prime's another one. I don't know about in terms of the makeup of all these drinks and what is the best for you. I really like Prime. I love the way Prime tastes. I love their flavors. Like I'm a big like kind of like different flavor profile type guy. I don't like the traditional like berries and cherries and
Hmm.
you know the cool blues and everything. Like I
So,
feel like there's a
do,
lot of flavor fatigue there.
sure. Do they
Um,
do like a like gravy flavor, right? Cream
oh yeah,
corn.
that's it.
Okay.
No, but they have like the rainbow popsicle flavor.
Okay.
And it tastes like a rainbow popsicle. It's incredible.
And low sugar, I would assume.
Yeah, it's like 15 calories a bottle or 20 calories a bottle.
Oh, that's impressive.
Yeah, they're pretty much no sugar.
Prime. Okay, I haven't
It's
tried
the
that. I'll have
it's
to
the
check it out.
Logan Paul KSI brand.
Okay, there we
Yeah.
go.
Okay.
Well,
So let's jump in.
speaking about selling, this guy,
Yeah. Logan Paul.
reach out, we'll respond.
Yeah. We can get you on the pod. I mean,
Yeah,
it take you.
we'll have you on. Maybe it'll help.
Yeah,
I don't
it
know.
might take a while to book you, but we'll get
Let's see.
there. On our side, not on your side.
Yeah, but we will respond if you do reach out.
Yeah.
So
Also, I will box you if you want. Like if that's how we want to go.
I don't know that you want to do that.
I'm big enough.
I don't know, man. The Paul brothers, they have skill.
Mm.
They do have some skill.
Okay, college athlete right here, Chris.
That's true.
College athlete.
That's true. How many boxing matches have you had though?
0. But how many boxing matches have they had against boxers?
I mean, Jake Paul
Never fought a boxer.
but he's fought athletes. Didn't he just beat Anderson Silva? Not a boxer, but I mean, legend MMA.
He wants to fight Patty the Batty, who's again not a boxer and weighs half as much as him.
Patty accepted it though too, which
Yeah.
is hardcore. Well, I think it was just sparring, right? It was like the agreement was to spar.
Yeah, that's what it was. The agreement was sparring.
It is, it's entertaining because at the very least, they talk a lot, but they do back it up in the sense of, they show up. Like eventually somebody's gonna have their number,
I
right?
like Patty the
everybody.
Batty. He's so wholesome.
He is wholesome. He
I'd
seems
let
like a good guy, and I'm glad to see his success.
I'd let him date my daughter.
Well, you
I
got
don't
some
have a
time for
daughter.
that. I was gonna say without a child, you're gonna have to wait some time.
My dad says it's illegal for me to have kids.
And on that note, we'll move on
Yeah.
to sales. Oh, I was gonna say something before the Pepsi thing popped up, but
All right, Chris, talk about EQ. Let's talk about EQ.
all right. So EQ is the abbreviation for emotional intelligence, which,
Well, kind of.
well, emotional quotient, right? But emotional intelligence is essentially wrapped up within it. There's a lot of different ways to slice it, but this has always been something that's extremely valuable in business. But until recent, there hasn't been a spotlight on it, and there hasn't been a ton of detail, data, emphasis on the value and what that actually means.
Yeah, and I think it's very rare you see a business succeed with somebody that just has IQ because it's hard to relate, it's hard to sell. It's hard to sell people to get them to join your business. I think the people that you see that start the best organizations, that lead the best organizations, that grow the best organizations are all of the people that have the best EQ, that know what they want and know what other people want out of them. If you look at a Jeff Bezos, if you look at even an Elon Musk, whether, controversial or not, like he's an excellent wrangler of people to support his cause to some extent, whether it's working for him or working with him or, buying his product. And I think it's really important and it's really understated. I think a lot of people look really good on paper because of what their skills are or what their company does or what their business plan is, but they really can't back it up and they're just a money dump and they're a waste, which I think is also why the interview process is so difficult.
Sure.
I know we're specifically talking about, selling your business and selling your idea. I think the interview process though is so difficult when you're hiring somebody because it's so hard to get to know somebody's true EQ, IQ potential and the combination of it. Even if you're meeting 5 or 6 times for 45 minutes or an hour, you really can't grasp that because the person's never going to be truly comfortable. And you say, oh, well, if they can't get comfortable in that 5 to 6 meetings with you, how are they going to get comfortable with a strategic partner or somebody they're selling into?
Mhm.
It's different because if they're comfortable with the organization, they can most certainly be comfortable with a partner, with somebody they're selling into. But if they're nervous about coming into an organization because there's a lot of pressure on them, they might not be comfortable. And it's hard to push through that EQ if they're trying really hard to relate to you, or maybe not being themselves if they're not comfortable there.
Yeah, absolutely. Those are great points. And and when we dig a little bit further into that, you know, EQ is coming from it's something that's within, it's something that you can work on, but it's something that you have to observe and see and feel and be a part of. So in an interview, you're always on. You are selling yourself. Your job is to get the job, right? You're going to put the best foot forward always. You've practiced, you have an idea as to what questions they're going to ask, you have the metrics to back it up. You're checking all the boxes and then from there your hope is to build rapport. But beyond that, sorry to cut you off.
No, you're not.
But from beyond that, it's when the person is stressed, how do they react? When something is going poorly, how do they work with others to make sure that things are able to move in the direction that everyone is able to benefit from?
Yeah, and it's the how do you act when you're not on? Because in an interview, everybody's on for the most part, and there's very little time for formalities or and how are you doing and tell me about your day or who's your favorite baseball team, your favorite football team, what are your kids doing? If you're meeting with somebody 3 or 4 or 5 times for an hour,
Mhm.
you don't talk about those things, and the EQ really comes through out of those scenarios where you can have the opportunity to build rapport. It's very hard in an interview process to build rapport,
Absolutely.
even if you have the highest EQ of anybody in
Eh,
the world. It's still difficult.
absolutely.
I think I'm fairly charming, but I always feel I don't do myself justice in interviews because I feel very pressured to, we have 45 minutes, spit out everything you can about yourself.
Mhm.
And when I ask them about their day, and when I ask them about their product or whatever, and how, I can relate to it and how I can push it, it's really like, we want to hear about you. We want to hear about your professional background, your skills, how did you apply this to this, to that, to that,
Totally.
which really I don't think is that important in most jobs, especially biz dev jobs, sales jobs, account management jobs, even product jobs where you're liaising between teams to develop product. I think the most important thing is your ability to liaise rather than your ability to, what I did at my last job to be how I organized my day.
Certainly.
I think it's, yeah.
That's a good call out, and that is what your resume is for, right? You're applying for something because you're confident in your ability to be able to do that, and your resume will show, "Here's what my performance looks like. Here's what my accomplishments are. Here's the projects, and here's what we've been able to succeed, where we've been able to succeed." So, the resume should speak in that capacity. Obviously, you need to be able to talk about it. You need to be able to give specific examples, but exactly to your point, how do you interact? At the end of the day, is a partner going to choose you over somebody else? Because your product is exactly the same as somebody else's. The process is exactly the same. The margins are the same. If there's a differentiating factor, you can make that yourself, and that makes you, invaluable across the board. Let's apply it to a small business. I had family members visit not long ago, and they called two places to place an order because they weren't using apps. And one place said, "I'm too busy. You can come pick it up." And the other place said, "No problem. It's going to take XYZ." In both situations, you can understand being in that situation. However, as a business owner, you want to make sure that you are getting the sale and you have the emotional intelligence, the EQ to be able to understand that this person is going to talk about the interaction that they had. They're going to potentially come back or they're not going to come back.
Creating empathy for your role, creating empathy for the cause or what you're doing. It's why, like, again, why these people who have been so successful they get people to empathize with their cause.
Absolutely.
It's the way they approach situations. It's not about, oh, this stinks, I can't do it. It's going to be done on this time frame, and this is why, because we're doing this.
Hmm.
And honestly, we're doing this because everything else is going so great.
Yep.
We can't have your order to you by this time because we're so busy, because everybody loves us.
Yep. Absolutely.
Not because, oh, we're so busy, do it like, you got to come do it
Yeah,
yourself.
like
I'm
yeah,
sorry.
it's on you. It's, the problem is It's not. We're in this together, and we're now in a partnership because you reached out to my business for a service. So we're going to work together to accomplish the goal that, that you're looking for, and it makes sense within the way that we operate. It's getting buy-in, right? It's rallying, it's the troops, for lack of better phrasing. That is extremely important. I have an experience which I'll talk about in more detail, but I was at a sales organization. Our head of sales, we had kind of that rallying moment where it's like, are you in? Are you out? And it wasn't negative. It was emotional. It was passionate. It was, this is what the vision of this organization is. This is what we're going to go do. Do you want to be a part of that? And they were aware that people were not going to want to be a part of that. And you had the opportunity to not be a part of that without negative impact. And that is something that stuck with me for quite some time. And I hope that we have the opportunity to actually speak with that individual, but I'll withhold more details until we can get that lined up.
Well, so and I think the problem is too, if you build an organization without that EQ, without the are you in or are you out, it becomes a very individualistic society in the organization. You've seen large organizations built like this, and seen them kind of stagnate. I think like a really good example of it is Microsoft from the 90s to the mid 2000s. Before their current CEO came in, there was a very much an individual style review system where people were not pushed on EQ. They were pushed on IQ and when they hit deadlines, and you were ranked against all your coworkers, no matter what. It wasn't team based, it was only individual based. So people, no matter how great they did, if they were on a great performing team, they were part of a great performing organization within the organization or sub organization, they were still being penalized if they were in the bottom 10%, even if their organization or sub organization was in the top 10% of the whole organization. And Microsoft, outside of the tech bubble, their stock was stagnant from 2001 to almost 2015. And if you look, or 2014, if you see Amazon, which has always, for the most part, preached a culture of kind of this emotional equity and sharing among your peers and promoting your team, what it kind of like a structural alignment within everybody.
That's a good
You've
way to put
seen
it.
massive growth where Microsoft was completely stagnant until they changed that process in 2014, 2015, and they took off again.
Yeah.
And I think it's really important. It's really understated, and it can affect even the largest organizations, the most prestigious organizations, that when you're solely looking at IQ and the intelligence, you are solely going to suffer due to all the underlying factors that it impacts.
Absolutely. That's it.
Lack of diversity, lack of culture, lack of empathy.
Mhm.
I could go on.
Absolutely. That's a great analysis. And I mean, we unfortunately we see that in a number of circumstances. I was actually looking at some analysis talking about Salesforce, the current situation going on with the co-CEO stepping back, kind of, getting more to what they were doing prior to their Salesforce role. But, you know, there's a possibility that there's some stagnation that comes because of investor pressure to focus on, revenue and growth as opposed to research and development and innovation. You see that happen with a bunch of tech companies, right? And again, that's not specific to EQ, but when we take a couple steps back and we look at how does this impact the organization and how does this impact the forward-looking progress of what can be done? Now it's about, you need to hit your number and do over this in order for us to succeed and hit these metrics, as opposed to, we need to come together and collaborate and find the next thing that's going to propel us to the next level and widen our moat and make us the business that everybody wants to work with. Salesforce will be okay. This is a very, unique situation. However, all of these things are part of leadership, and they're also a part of the way that your team is going to view how they approach things within the organization and each other.
And can you specifically tie it into everything is selling?
So, yes, I can. So, everything is selling, right? We said that we've hopefully been talking about why that matters, but everything in your life is presenting something and hoping that there is acceptance or understanding from the other party, right? As an individual, I've recently moved. I'm meeting new people. I'm
He has a
showing.
kid now.
I
Well,
have a kid.
and me. And he has me
So
too.
I have a kid and a half.
Hmm.
Also a
I'm the
dog.
half.
Also a dog.
Yeah.
And and you have a dog too. So it's kind of like 2 dogs and a kid and a half.
Yeah, it's difficult.
It's
Chris has a lot on his plate. I'm expensive too.
very expensive.
Yeah.
You know, we can talk about that another day.
Only organic milk for me.
It's a lot of milk too. They go through milk like.
Oh yeah.
So, I'm meeting new people, and the benefit of that is you have a fresh start, right? But at the end of the day, you're still who you are. So you need to find the best way to connect, to build rapport, but also to let them see who you are and how you operate. Because if you're selling them something that's not accurate, right? If you're misrepresenting who you are, they're going to find out, and it's going to cause longer term impacts, which it's going to impact more people. If I integrate someone into my group and then they decide that they don't like who I actually am, that's going to disrupt the relationships that they built with others, and that isolates them. And it's a very simple thought to say, hey, you need to be who you are, and you can position it in a way that obviously you don't want to intentionally make yourself look bad, but you need to show who you are, and you need to be transparent about maybe what the drawbacks or the faults, right? Because we all have faults, where those lie in a personal circumstance. In a professional circumstance, no matter what you do, your goal is to further the agenda of your organization, right? If you are selling something, you want to sell that. However, you need to be mindful that your potential customer, the buyer, they have a problem that needs to be solved. If you can solve their problem, they will utilize your product, and you're not selling it to them, you're helping them fix something. And that is extremely important because it goes back to empathy, and it goes back to being aware of, if the roles were reversed, would this be the way that I want to be treated? And am I getting the experience that I deserve as someone who's going to forego revenue that I would take for my business and give it to you to help me address this issue?
Yeah, and I think that's a good point. I've seen a lot of leaders in organizations that I've really, really liked as people, and I think they're very self-aware of what they want, but they lack the EQ or the self-awareness to understand what other people want, and they never last and they're never successful.
Sure.
And it's hard to last. And I think having that empathy and driving an organization with that empathy, knowing what they want, really goes to, like we just said, everything is sales, and pushing that message through the organization and how they approach their customers and how they approach their day-to-day life and how they work cross-functionally, and even what they take home with them. Because if they're miserable at work, they're going to be miserable at home too. And it's a compounding effect. And chances are talent's going to stagnate,
Sure.
organization's going to stagnate, etc. I don't want to be redundant. I know we already talked about it, but
It's true, and it drags on the culture, right? There's plenty of examples of organizations that have great culture, and then either leadership or a leader somewhere in the higher level matrix comes in. They don't have the emotional intelligence, they don't have the awareness to be able to integrate themselves into the culture that's been created. They try to completely change everything, and when that happens, people are unhappy. Now the culture has shifted, they think that what they're doing is making an impact, and maybe some of the stuff would. However, you need to be aware that you are the new person in, and you need to understand what's going on, and then you can find efficiencies, you can make things better, and you have this rapport, so you can sell your great ideas to the people that understand the way that it's worked.
I think we're both talking about the same person. Maybe. Yeah.
It's very possible.
We don't talk about anybody in a negative light here. They're all very good people.
Absolutely.
But I think the person that I was thinking of, and the person that may have just popped into Chris's head when he was saying that, very good chance for the same person.
It's very possible.
Shout out that person. We both like you a lot.
We do. So I am also, one point that I think is really valuable. And actually, I took this from a post on Instagram talking about being a dad, honestly. So, I have a day at work. My wife has a day. My son has a day. Everyone has a day. Everyone has feelings. Everyone has emotions. When I come home and I see my wife and my son, they've both had a day. I've had a day. I need to be aware of the fact that they have had a day, and my day isn't the most important thing. We need to make sure that we are aligned to say, hey, if you had something bad happen today and I had something bad happen today, we're both feeling that. How do we make sure that we come together and we do what's best for each other and for everyone involved?
And that's sales.
And that's sales.
Yeah.
That's building relationships. That's partnerships. That's strategic alliances. There's there's a reason why it's very difficult to take if we're selling the same, the same product from different companies, it's very difficult for me to poach his clients if I'm just trying to give them a better price. It works short term, it does not work long term. It's about the relationship, it's about understanding each other, and it's the simple things, you know, we could talk about the method of sales, but if you know when someone's birthday is, if you know that they just had a kid, if you all of those things, like you would care if someone brought it up to you, you should care to bring that up to them and develop a relationship that's deeper than just taking money from them in order for you to make money. And, you know, that's why thinking of sales in the personal sense is valuable when you take that step back. And it truly is emotional intelligence. And it's something that you do have to work on.
Okay. So on that note, you want to end it there?
I think that's a good spot to end it. When we hear your feedback and you reach out and we'll respond, we can dig deeper into these topics. And we'd also really love to discuss these in more detail with founders, with business owners, and we'll really dig in there and VCs, because this is going to be a very important piece of the way that businesses are evaluated, especially as they mature and move on through different stages of their life cycle.
I agree. You ever think of the word feedback and like what it entails?
The process of it, or just the word
feeding back?
Oh yeah.
Is it?
Go ahead.
Like I would feed somebody and they feed me back. Like I'm feeding you this information and then you feed me back with information.
Yep.
But physically, when I feed somebody and they feed me back, they're not feeding me the same food that I just fed them. It's not like a bird regurgitating. They're like giving me new food.
Correct. They're giving you new food and they're giving you better food.
Okay, so it's not like they're chewing in and like it's
so
not like the bird thing.
It's not a baby bird situation, to my understanding. It is a loop, right?
I understand what feedback means. Like, I'm not stupid. Like, let's not. I'm just thinking of the physical action of feedback.
Yeah. The way that I look at it is,
because I feel like if I gave you food, you chewed it and gave it back to me. Like, that's your interpretation of the food I gave you.
Exactly.
And like what your feedback is on it. Like, oh, I didn't like it here. Let me spit it out and feed it back to you.
That sounds like a torture in a movie.
Well, for you, you're a germaphobe. I mean, that's horrible for you.
I'm not doing any of that feedback with anybody. However, to use your analogy, you feed me something, I have to digest it and I have to understand. If I don't like it, then I'll be able to provide meaningful feedback to you as to why I didn't like it and what can be improved. But if I did like it, then I'm able to share that with you and you can continue to progress. And then we continue to do that.
Thank you for clarifying feedback to me.
So the loop is very important. Feedback is not fun with microphones. It's pretty cool with guitars, but it's very good for personal and professional development.
And we will not give you, don't give us chewed food.
No chewed food.
No chewed food.
Yeah. Don't send us food unless you're a business and you want to send something over. We'd love to try it. We'll talk about it on the podcast.
Especially egg rolls. It's a big market out nowadays.
Big market for egg rolls. Mm-hmm. Big market.
Look it up.
There are some really cool companies that are doing some
pretty cool
really innovative things. Well,
really innovative egg rolls.
Well, we will have a guest who does very innovative egg rolls, and we'll be able to learn a lot about the business.
Bacon, egg, and cheese roll.
Don't give it all away.
Wait, is that actually a thing? I just made it up.
I'm telling you, his egg rolls are so good.
I mean, that has to be one, a bacon, egg, and cheese roll. Like, like that's. If you're not thinking of that, you basically shouldn't be in the egg roll game.
His egg rolls are so good. And like they sell out. Like you go to where he, at the events that he's at, and he sells out.
Pork roll. He's from Jersey. Is he from Jersey?
Yeah. See, I would call it Taylor ham.
Yeah, but I feel like for the plant egg roll, pork roll.
Oh well, yeah, that's fair. He does a Big Mac.
Dude,
it's so good. It's so good,
dude. We'll talk when we get off camera. This just made me think of something really important for Chris.
All right. Well,
so
you want to wrap it up?
I love hard-boiled eggs, but we'll talk about it after.
We'll fill you in next time.
Yeah. Okay. So thank you for listening. Thank you for watching. We love you. You can follow us on Instagram at Business Chatter Pod, or you can email us at host@businesschatterpod.com. Chris,
please reach out. We will respond. Thank you so much. Your time is valuable. We appreciate that you've shared it with us. The Business Chatter Podcast. Consider us your crash course on value creation through the eyes of individuals who have done it before. We'll see you next time.
See ya.